Okay. Yeah, that just didn't sound right. All right. So, if you're looking at me now, you might say you look a little older. And I am. Um, so, a couple of things I'm going to do in this video. I'm going to explain some of the what is going on with the Don McKinnon um, YouTube channel and explain some other things. So, um, I guess the best way I can come out and say this is um, it came to my mind that I had three channels. Uh, one which is basically just my regular life, another one which was church revitalization, and this one which has been Bible reviews and other things. And I figured that it was best to combine two of them because why not? Um, so what I'm doing is I'm taking the Bible channel and the revitalization, church revitalization channel, and I'm combining the two because both are faith related. And why would you not do something like that? So we're still going to do Bible reviews. In fact, I got one that I'll be reviewing soon. This is one that I'm currently going through. It's the 1 Year Bible, but it's chronological. Never heard, well, I've heard of it, and I've been wanting to do this for a while, but this isn't the review for this. No, that is coming soon. But what I am doing here is I am combining the church revitalization with that. And you might say, well, why would you do such a thing? Why would you put those two together? And I think it's because it makes sense. Church revitalization is something that has really taken off over the last decade. Like when I started the revitalization I'm in now, there was like less than 5 podcasts and probably about a dozen books out, and now there's a bunch of revitalization podcasts. In fact, I finished a couple of years ago, I did a 5-year podcast with my friend Eric Malloy, our friend Sam Jimenez, and my wife Natalie. And that ran for 5 years, and it just seemed like it was time to end it at the time. We had a lot of success, a lot of views. In fact, I can remember going to many a revitalization conference or someplace and running into somebody that knew my voice because they listened to the podcast. And it was kind of surreal at the time. But at the same time, I started running out of steam. There was the idea that you had to constantly make content every week. And I think that was starting to become mundane and really tough. And when you're struggling, because not that you don't love what you're doing, but you're struggling because you're feeling forced to find something, that's when you have to call a timeout and step back, re-examine things, and decide what the next step is. And so that podcast came to an end. I began a new podcast last year where we focus on seasons, and I am going to be continuing that one with content early this year and later this year. But I took that as a thing because a couple of friends around in my parts began to say that podcasts that focus on seasons help creativity, and I needed that help. So that's what I'm doing there. But this is going to combine. So one thing that I'm doing is I've downloaded all the content from my other channel, and I am beginning to upload that content to this channel. So this channel is going to have at least once a week through I think it's middle of July, we'll have content coming up, and it's a mixture of content from the time. Sorry, my dog is having a nightmare or a dream. But it's going to be a content of stuff that was going on at the time, and then stuff that I have, like recordings from revitalization conferences and different things that I think will help, because I think that we do have to have a YouTube channel that is focused on church revitalization in real time. So we're going to see that. You're going to see me upload videos. In fact, right now I'm going through something where I'm like wondering, do I make a video? I'm making this on my iPhone. I do have a GoPro that I may be making a video tomorrow. I'm not sure, but we are, like much of the country, we are expecting a major snowstorm, and my church has decided to do it because, or not cancel, I should say. We are having services tomorrow, not because we need the money and we have to do it, but we have a lot of stuff going on. In revitalization, there are nightmare scenarios. And what I mean by a nightmare scenario is when you have something of, I guess, the easiest thing to say is things that you don't expect. Now, I'm going to say this as cleanly and as fast as I can, but there is a nightmare scenario out there for homeowners. Many people may know that there has been a scam going around. I don't think it's not new. It's been going around for a few years, where people have been getting somehow legally, they've gotten the deed to a property, and then they sell homes out from under the homeowners. And it's become a big mess. I know that there are all sorts of scenarios going on where there's stuff going on with that. I have a friend in Pennsylvania that has just dealt with that himself, but not with his home. He is pastoring a church in a rural area, and it's a historic church. So if you know anything about historic churches technically do not have deeds, but there are things like, I know for our fact, we have the historic deed on property that shows that we own the land that this church is on. And that is good enough for the state of Massachusetts. But in other areas, what is going on is basically, because of the housing crisis and because people want to build homes and apartments and whatnot, this is becoming a major scam. So buyer beware, but this is what is going on. That's not what my church is meeting for. What we're meeting for is two important reasons. We have the business meeting because, one, we have a roof that is in need of being replaced, and replaced ASAP. It is a scary situation because we are starting to see some of the damage come through, but at the same time, we're not quite at that point. But we know it could come soon. And if you've ever watched some of these YouTube videos where people are buying homes and then gutting them and repairing them, and you watch the repairs, you'll know what I mean. I mean, it's a scary situation. But the other thing, and especially when you're a revitalization and you're trying to bring in people, but you're building what your building looks like could be detracting people. So it's a nightmare scenario. But at the same time, one thing that we just found out as we were getting ready for this business meeting, and of course we're to talk about budget and everything, but we have just found out that somebody was able to get the routing number and the account number to the church and has been taking money out of our church account for almost 2 years. And in doing so, that has caused us to lose a good deal of money that we could have been putting towards that roof. And I know that authorities have been called, and there's nothing else I can say. Not because I've been told not to say it, but I just don't feel comfortable more than saying that. But this is kind of what goes on with being in a church revitalization. You sit there, you know that there are things that are going on, you know that there are needs, and I think a lot of people are unaware of what goes on. One thing I will say is I look at church revitalization where it was when I got here, and there was always, uh, you know, um, an outlook that it was going to be tough and everything. And I think that that's still true. But at the same time, I see where some people have painted sort of a rosy outlook. I'm seeing more where people are putting more of a, let's just, yeah, it's a revitalization, but let's just move a church planter in there and blow up what's been in there and restart. And so there's a whole bunch of things going on. And I'm realizing over the last year, as I've had a medical crisis and different things, that um, we need to kind of put ourselves in a new situation of wondering what is going on and how we are going to handle things and which way we're going to handle things and all sorts of things. And what I mean by that is, um, God is ultimately in control of his church, but at times we can become so wrapped up with multiple things within the church, um, it becomes tough to see the vision that God is giving us. And at the same time, when we have that vision and then we run into these sorts of obstacles, it becomes hard for us to continue going on. And so, if anything, I would ask, please pray. Um, we are in a situation, we've come out, let me explain. We came out of a year unlike any year that I've had since I was called to this church. We had 2 marriages. I've done 2 anniversary renewal, wedding renewal, vow renewal things, but never have I been asked to do 2 weddings, a wedding. Usually, if you're in a revitalization, you're talking funerals. And to have done 2 weddings in the last year was huge. What even made it, larger was we'd had 2 baptism services. So we baptized not once. We've done, the first year I was here. No, the third year I was here, we had a baptism service, and the fourth year I was here, we had a baptism service, and then we had nothing. COVID happened, and things kind of dried up, and it was tough to get our footing back. But then last year, it was like crazy. We had a baptism service, and then we had people come up and say, I want to be baptized. So 2 weeks later, we had another baptism service. So God is good. But at the same time, then we had two families move, and that was big for our group, for our church, because you're talking like almost 10 individuals that left. And it's that's a big number for a revitalization, especially our size. That was a good chunk of our church that left. And so I've been focused on you know a new theme for this year: rebuild, recharge, reignite, based on the book of Nehemiah. And we're going forward in that. And then we've got some other stuff going on. But God is good. We've got mission teams ready to come out. We're hoping to talk with them. We've got some that are looking at the roof, others that are looking at painting the building, because the building needs paint. And honestly, I think once we get a fresh coat of paint on that building, that's going to turn it around. We just moved our worship service from 10:30 to 10. That doesn't sound big at all, but believe me, in doing that, we've been getting more visitors coming in. So that's been huge. But we're going into this snowstorm not knowing what's going to happen. I am confident that God is going to honor us in this and get us through and get our people home safe, especially for the football game at 3 o'clock. Yes, I'm a New Englander. Go Patriots. But don't hate me for it. But those are the things that we are trying to do. We are working this stuff out. But then when you're going through that kind of season, the enemy is always going to attack you. And we're seeing that attack now as we're realizing this money has been stolen from the church. And I'm reminded, like, as angry as I am, I want revenge, but remember, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. And I think to myself, somehow God's going to get this guy back, this person or company or whoever it is, back for that money being stolen. So anyway, so yeah, that's it. That's what's going on with this channel. So when I'm gonna be doing some videos, I can't say I grew up watching YouTube, but I've watched enough YouTube to know like some of the videos, some of the ideas and styles that I like, and maybe I'll be able to put something together. And that's why I like having these videos that are going to be going up once a week, because it'll give me time to begin to kind of try to figure a way of putting these videos out there for you guys each week, and everything. So anyway, hopefully I'll have an update for you sometime this week about the storm and how things went. But other than that, God bless. What is going